Throughout the scriptures, we read the great importance and significance of trumpets. The scriptures teach us of the trumpets blown during the time of Joshua. The sound blast, with the help of the angels, knocked down the city's stone walls. Scriptures tell of the trumpets announcing war as well as the movement of the camp. The trumpets are blown for each monthly feast. The trumpets announce the destruction of this current world order. And so very, very importantly, the trumpets announce the coming of our Messiah, Yeshua. It's no wonder that there is an annual holy day called the Feast of Trumpets, recognizing all of these biblical events. Although our current Bible gives so much information regarding the Feast of Trumpets, there's one area that it doesn't focus on, and that is the history of the beginnings of this Feast of Trumpets, which occurs on the 7th month in every year. For the very, very early history of the Feast of Trumpets, we must read from the book of Jubilees, which was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls along with other Bible scriptures. The book of Jubilees teaches a great deal of history for each of the 7 holy days, as well as the detailed laws on the Sabbath and many other subjects. The history of the Feast of Trumpets starts in the book of Jubilees, chapter 5, verses 29, and chapter 6, verses 26. The Feast of Trumpets was shown as important to Noah because on that day the flood waters of the ocean abysses opened and the waters were able to drain down to allow the earth to become dry. In Jubilees chapter 12, verses 1, 4, 5, and 16 through 27, we are shown that Abram, later renamed to Abraham, on the night of the Feast of Trumpets, that he recognized that Yahweh truly is supreme, and he chose to serve him only.
And it came to pass in the 6th week, in the 7th year thereof, that Abram said to Terah his father, saying, Father. And he said, Behold, here am I, my son. And worship them not. Worship the God of heaven, who causes the rain and the dew to descend on the earth, and does everything upon the earth, and has created everything by his word, and all life is from before his face. Why do ye worship things that have no spirit in them? For they are the work of men's hands. And on your shoulders do ye bear them, and ye have no help from them. But they are a great cause of shame to those who make them, and a misleading of the heart to those who worship them. Worship them not. In the 6th week, in the 5th year thereof, Abram sat up throughout the night on the new moon of the 7th month to observe the stars, from the evening to the morning, in order to see what would be the character of the year with regard to the rains. And he was alone as he sat and observed. And a word came into his heart, and he said, All the signs of the stars, and the signs of the moon and of the sun, are all in the hand of the Lord. Why do I search them out? If he desires, he causes it to rain, morning and evening. And if he desires, he withholds it. And all things are in his hand. And he prayed that night and said, My God, God most high, thou alone art my God, and thee and thy dominion have I chosen. And thou hast created all things, and all things that are the work of thy hands. Deliver me from the hands of the evil spirits who have dominion over the thoughts of men's hearts, and let them not lead me astray from thee, my God. Establish thou me and my seed forever, that we may not go astray from henceforth and forevermore. And he said, Shall I return unto Ur of the Chaldees, who seek my face, that I may return unto them? Am I to remain here in this place, the right path before thee? Prosper it in the hands of thy servant, that he may fulfill it, and that I may not walk in the deceitfulness of my heart, O my God. And he made an end of speaking and praying, and behold, the word of the Lord was sent to him through me, saying, Get thee up from thy country, and from thy kindred, and from the house of thy father, unto a land which I will show thee, and I shall make thee a great and numerous nation. And I will bless thee, and I will make thy name great, and thou shalt be blessed in the earth. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curse thee. And I will be a God to thee and thy son, and to thy son's sons, and to all thy seed. Fear not from henceforth and unto all generations of the earth. I am thy God. And the Lord God said, Open his mouth and his ears, that he may hear and speak with his mouth, with the language which has been revealed. For it had ceased from the mouths of all the children of men from the day of the overthrow of Babel. And I opened his mouth, and his ears, and his lips, and I began to speak with him in Hebrew, in the tongue of the creation. And he took the books of his fathers, and these were written in Hebrew, and he transcribed them, and he began from henceforth to study them. And I made known to him that which he could not understand, and he studied them during the 6 rainy months.
In Jubilees chapter 31, verses 1 through 5, and verses 24 through 32, shows Jacob causing his entire household to get rid of their pagan idols, including his wife Rachel, on the very day of the Feast of Trumpets. And he, on that same day, offered his sacrifice to Yahweh and invited his parents, both Isaac and Rebekah, to the sacrifice of the Feast of Trumpets.
And on the new moon of the month, Jacob spoke to all the people of his house, saying, Purify yourselves and change your garments, and let us arise and go up to Bethel, where I vowed a vow to him on the day when I fled from the face of Esau my brother, because he has been with me and brought me into this land of peace. And put ye away the strange gods that are among you. And they gave up the strange gods, and that which was in their ears, and which was on their necks, and the idols which Rachel stole from Laban her father, she gave wholly to Jacob. And he burnt and brake them to pieces, and destroyed them, and hid them under an oak which is in the land of Shechem. And he went up on the new moon of the 7th month to Bethel. And he built an altar in the place where he had slept, and he set up a pillar there. And he sent word to his father Isaac to come to him to his sacrifice, and to his mother Rebekah. And Isaac said, Let my son Jacob come, and let me see him before I die. And Jacob went to his father Isaac, and to his mother Rebekah, and to the house of his father Abraham. And he took 2 of his sons with him, Levi and Judah. And he came to his father Isaac, and to his mother Rebekah, told his father everything during the night, how the Lord had showed him great mercy, and how he had prospered him in all his ways, and protected him from all evil. And Isaac blessed the God of his father Abraham, who had not withdrawn his mercy and his righteousness from the sons of his servant Isaac. And in the morning Jacob told his father Isaac the vow which he had vowed to the Lord, and the vision which he had seen, and that he had built an altar, and on that everything was ready for the sacrifice to be made before the Lord as he had vowed, and that he had come to set him on the ass. And Isaac said unto Jacob his son, I am not able to go with thee, for I am old, and not able to bear the way. Go, my son, in peace, for I am 165 years this day. I am no longer able to journey. Set thy mother on an ass, and let her go with thee. And I know, my son, that thou hast come on my account. And may this day be blessed on which thou hast seen me alive. And I also have seen thee, my son. Mayest thou prosper, and fulfill the vow which thou hast vowed, and put not off thy vow. For thou shalt be called to account as touching the vow. Now therefore make haste to perform it. And may he be pleased who has made all things, to whom thou hast vowed the vow. And he said to Rebekah, Go with Jacob thy son. And Rebekah went with Jacob her son, and Deborah with her, and they came to Bethel. And Jacob remembered the prayer with which his father had blessed him and his 2 sons, Levi and Judah. And he rejoiced and blessed the God of his fathers, Abraham and Isaac. And he said, Now I know that I have an eternal hope, and my sons also, before the God of all. And thus it is ordained concerning the two, and they record it as an eternal testimony unto them on the heavenly tablets.
We are shown that many important events took place on each of the 7 holy days.
Chapter 29.
And in the 7th month, on the 1st day of the month, ye shall have an holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work. It is a day of blowing the trumpets unto you.
Good evening, and welcome to Beyond the Surface. We are broadcasting live from the Cultural Center of NCCI, and we'd like to thank our special audience today for being here. We're going to talk with the elder of the New Covenant Congregation of Israel today about 2 particular subjects. One being, when will the Messiah return, and what will his return look like? And also the restoration of the kingdom to the nation called Israel, also called by many other names such as Negro, Falasha, Colors, etc. So, Elder, if you will, if you could talk about those 2 very important subjects, the return of the Messiah to this earth, and also the restoration of the children of Israel. And what I'd like to do is to set that up for you in the book of Acts. Acts chapter 1 states, in regards to his return, it says, And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up in a cloud, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven, as he went up, behold, 2 men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, You men of Galilee, why stand you up gazing into heaven? That same Yahshua, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as you have seen him go into heaven. Then returned they unto Jerusalem from the mountain called Olivet. So let's talk about that a little bit. And then, of course, the last verse in here that I'd like you to talk about is in chapter 1, Acts chapter 1, verse 6, it says, When they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, Adonai, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? So again, he was taken up into the clouds, into heaven. The angel said he's going to come back the same way, and they were on the mountain of Olivet when this took place. So let's talk about his return and the restoration to the kingdom of Israel.
Well, you know, due to the interpretation of things that's written in the New Testament by the churches of today, people get a misconception as to what's going to take place when the Messiah comes. You know, everybody thinks it's going to be a great day, everybody's going to go up to heaven, you know, he can come any day and so forth. But prophecies has to be fulfilled. And according to the prophets, there are going to be many things, like I say all the time, the earth is going to almost be uninhabitable by the time the Messiah comes. This is why the Messiah said, you shall not see me again till you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Adonai, simply because of the things that's going to be going on among our people. So as far as this thing that's written in Thessalonians about that rapture, people going up into heaven and so forth, that's not really the truth. And to show you that, what I like to do is like to read something out of the book of Revelations.
Okay.
Revelations chapter 19. Pick this up in the beginning of what's going to be taking place at that time so we can get our full story instead of bits and pieces of it.
Okay.
In Revelations 19, in verse 11, it says, And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse. And he that sat on him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness does he judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses. So we can very well see that the armies that he's talking about, if you get back up in the earlier chapters of Revelations, when John first saw what was in heaven, it was the throne, the 4 beasts, and the 24 elders, and legions of angels. So this is what's going to be coming out of heaven, and not man. And it says, verse 15, it says, And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he shall smite the nation, and he shall rule them with the rod of iron. And he tread the winepress of the fierceness of the wrath of Almighty Elohim. And he had on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, right? Okay, so heaven opened, and the Messiah is getting ready to come down. But why is he coming down? Simply because all of the nations have come up to Jerusalem to do battle against Jerusalem. Verse 17. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, come and gather yourself together unto the supper of the great God, that you may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and the flesh of them that sat on them, and the flesh of all men, both small and both free and bond, both small and great. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war with him that sits upon the throne and against his army. Now people talking about the Messiah coming back. Well, who is it that has the power on the earth, to think they have the power to try to make war with the Messiah? And we know who it is. We know that it's the Gentiles that was given this last period of time. So the Romans still have all the power. So John says he saw heaven open, and he saw all the beasts and everything, the nation gather themselves together to do battle with the Messiah, right? Okay, now let's go back into Zechariah. And Zechariah chapter 14. It says, behold, the day of Yahweh comes, and your spoil shall be divided in the midst of you. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle. He didn't say some of the nations.
Right.
He said all of the nations, simply because all of the nations have had our people in captivity at one time or another. And he told them, say, whosoever touch you, touch the apple of my eye, I'm going to recompense it to. This is why he's allowing the adversary, the devil, to give these people all these genies, all these magnificent weapons, and all these satellites, so they can see everything and hear everything, so that when the Messiah comes, you're going to show them all that stuff didn't mean nothing.
Right,
Okay.
right. Now, Elder, before you go on, can you explain why it is? Because obviously these nations, especially the European kings, are in cahoots with the people that are in the land of Israel today. So what would make them come up to surround Jerusalem?
Well, what's going to happen is, according to the prophets, just before America is destroyed by Russia, Yahweh is going to get his people up out of here. And that's written in the prophet Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter, I think it's chapter 20. That's written in Ezekiel of what's good. That's what I like about my Creator. He don't do anything until he tells the servants, the prophets first. And all you have to do is go back in here and let the Spirit, allow the Spirit to put these things together for you. And you can see what exactly what he said was going to take place upon the earth. This way we'll know what to do. This is Ezekiel 20 and verse 33. It says, as I live, saith the Adonai Elohim, surely with a mighty hand and with an outstretched arm, and with fury poured out will I rule over you. And I will bring you out from the people, and gather you out of the countries wherein you have been scattered with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead to you with you face to face, like as I pleaded with your father in the wilderness and land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith the Adonai Elohim. So just before America falls, the prophets tell us that at the destruction of America, shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel come going as weeping as they go, saying, show me the way to Zion.
Right.
We have to understand that once America falls, no one is going to want to let 30, 40, 50 million of us into their country, because the nations are against us anyways because of who we are. And we know that what's going to be happening in Europe and Asia, that our people are going to be fleeing out of those cities, and simply because the beast is going to try to kill them off if they don't receive this name, number, and mark.
Correct.
So Yahweh said he's going to bring his people in the wilderness, and once we get into the wilderness, he's going to raise up a champion after he purged out the rebels. Let me go and read something else to you out of the prophet Zechariah that talked about that. This is Zechariah chapter 13.
Actually, that's where we were in Ezekiel 20 about the purging of the rebels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to go in We're going to go in Zechariah chapter 14, and it says, Behold, the day of the Lord coming, your spoil shall be divided in the midst of you. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations. That's when he fought in the day of battle. And his feet shall stand in that day on the Mount of Olives, the same place that he left from. And the angels asked the apostles, say, you men of Galilee, why do you stand gazing into the heavens? Say, the same way he left is the same way he's going to return with the clouds of heaven. Correct. So he left the Mount of Olives, and when heaven opened, and him and the army start coming out of heaven, the dead in the Messiah is going to rise up to meet him in the air. And then those that are alive and remain, that's going to receive that change, they're going to be caught up together with them in the air, but they're coming back to the Mount of Olives.
Okay.
This is why it said in verse 4, and his feet shall stand on the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west, and there shall be a very great valley. And half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half of it toward the south. So when the Messiah stands on that mountain is going to bust in half, right?
Obviously, that's a great earthquake.
Correct.
Yes.
The great earthquake, it said a great earthquake like it never was and never will be, simply because the mountains and things that's on the earth is being destroyed, because Jerusalem is going to be the highest point on the earth at this time. But what's interesting is that here in chapter 13, he says, I'm going to pick this up at chapter 12, I'm sorry. I'm going to pick this up at verse 2. It said, Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about when they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and Jerusalem. So Judah would have come out of the wilderness and went into that city. And once we secure that city, that's when all the nations are going to come back up to do war. That's what's going to draw the nations back up to Jerusalem to do war, to destroy the house of Judah off, because the kings came out of Judah. The Messiah, the last king, the king that was promised David in 2 Samuel 7 chapter, he came out of the house of Judah. And tell the truth, that's who the original Jews was, the tribe of Judah. Okay, it says, verse 3, And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth shall be gathered together against it, right? In that day, says Yahweh, I will smite every horse with astonishment and his rider with madness, and I will open mine eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. And the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength, in Yahweh of hosts, I Elohim. In other words, let us get into the city, because the city is a cauldron, and that's where we need to be. That's where we're going to be saved from. Verse 6, In that day will I make the governor of Judah like a hearth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in the sheet. And they shall devour all people round about on the right hand and on the left, and Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place, even in Jerusalem. The Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first. Now, Paul said, glory and honor to the Jew first.
Right.
But people tell me, say, well, look, he's going to take all the Christians up into heaven. Well, if he does, he's made all the prophets alive.
Right.
Because glory and honor is to the Jew first, and those who grab on to the Jews will become what? Part of the house of Israel, spiritual Israel. Okay. Verse 8. And in that day shall Yahweh defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them in that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as Elohim, as the angel of the Lord before them. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplication. And they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourned for his only son, and they shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. So when the Messiah comes, he's coming back to the land of Israel, because he is an Israelite, and he was the king of Israel. So we have a misconception of the things that's going to take place, simply because the people that are teaching this word, they do not have the authority by the God of Israel. Paul said that no other foundation can any man lay than that which is laid of Christ.
Right.
Well, they've laid their own foundation, because it told them that Israel was given the covenants, the promise, the service, the giving of the law. All the holy thing was given to the children of Israel. And when the Messiah come back, he's returning to the land of Israel. But people don't see that today, simply because of the fact that they don't read the prophets. People go in the book looking for something to scare them to death.
Right.
But really, the book is it's a history book.
Absolutely.
It contains words, but they're spiritual words simply because they were spoken by the mouth of the living God as far as what's going to happen upon this earth. So as far as that pie in the sky and folks going up to heaven, these are the events that's going to take place at the Lord's coming.
All righty. So, Elder, you mentioned the destruction of America, the Hebrew Israelites, the tribe of Judah, Levi, and Benjamin, leaving this country, going into the wilderness for a 3.5-year period, and then coming out of that wilderness and actually capturing the city of Jerusalem from these infidels and these imposters that's in the land, calling themselves the Israelis today. So in Revelations chapter 12, it talks about the things that Lucifer is going to try to do to destroy us in the wilderness, because obviously none of their satellites and none of their technology will work to find us in that secret place.
Correct.
But once we come out and go into the city of Jerusalem, they will know where we are, and that's when they will surround that city to destroy us once and for all.
Right, because we have to understand that the book of Revelation said that this last empire is going to cause all, small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a name, number, and mark in their right hand or in their forehead,
Right.
and that no man would be able to buy or sell except him who had the name, number, and the mark. And we can't get that mark. See, this is why, you know what Judah going to do. Judah going to survive. They say, here, take this mark. We're going to take that mark. So Yahweh is going to get us into the wilderness, and then once he gets us in the wilderness, that's the time that the name, number, and mark will be given to the nation. And what that is doing is Lucifer is numbering his children. And we have the forerunner of that number today. They call it a Social Security number. But let's go and read some other things that's going to take place once the Messiah returns. Let's go into Ezekiel.
Okay.
Back in the prophet Ezekiel. I want to go into Ezekiel chapter, I think I want to go to Ezekiel chapter 38 and read some things that was going to take place. Ezekiel chapter 39.
Okay. And this is a live show. We have a live audience today, so write your questions down, and in a few minutes we'll have you come up and ask your questions to get some clarification from the elder.
Now, just before the Messiah's feet stand on the Mount of Olives, I'm going to read some things too that's going to take place. John the Revelator talked about, and Zechariah talked about the gathering of the nations together to do war in Jerusalem, right? Well, let's go and actually deal with what's going to take place at that war.
Okay.
This is Ezekiel 39, and I'm going to start at this at verse 1. It says, therefore, you son of man, prophesy against the prince, and say, thus said the Adonai Elohim, behold, I'm against thee, O prince, the chief prince of Moscow and Tubal. Now, according to the prophet Jeremiah, he said he want to stir up the Russians against America.
Right, right.
Okay, so we know that this Meshet and Tubal, we know that these are two cities that still in Russia that's going to survive that war. They're going to destroy America. They're going to set up that new world order, and Russia is going to be the company that they use to put together the armies to come up to Jerusalem, okay?
Right, they call her the sleeping bear. People
Right.
think that she is no harm to be had, but she's going to, her claws are growing very long and strong right about now.
Right.
And she's going to shock all the nations when she destroys this country.
When she come up out of hibernation, people are going to be surprised at the claws and things
Right.
that this woman has. Okay, this is verse 2. And I will turn you back and leave but a sixth part of you. Now he's going to kill off 5/6 of them. Okay? I'm going to leave but a sixth part of you, and will cause you to come up from the north parts, and will bring you upon the mountains of Israel. And I will smite your bow out of your left hand, and cause thine arrows to fall out of your right hand. You shall fall upon the mountains of Israel, you and all your bands, and all the people with you. And I will give you to the ravenous bird of every sort, and the beast of the field to be devoured. Now we read in Revelation where the angel called all the feathered fowls to this
great feast.
Right, to this great feast I prepared for you, right? Okay, and
he said you're going to eat the flesh of captains and kings
and horses and yeah, okay. Verse 5. You shall fall upon the open fields, for I have spoken it, saith the Adonai Elohim. And I will send a fire upon Russia, and upon them that dwell carelessly in the isles, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. So will I make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not let them pollute my holy name anymore. And the heathen shall know that I am Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel. Behold, it is come, and it is done, saith Yahweh. This is the day whereof I have spoken. And they that dwells in the city of Israel shall go forth and set on fire, and burn the weapons, both the shield and the bucklers, the bows and the arrows, the hand staves and the spears. They shall burn them with fire for 7 years, so that they take no wood out of the field, neither cut down any out of the forest. For they shall burn the weapons with fire, and they shall spoil those that spoil them, and rob those that rob them, saith the Adonai Elohim. And it shall come to pass that in that day that I will give unto the prince a place there of graves in Israel, the valley of the passengers on the east sea, and it shall stop the noses of the passengers. And there shall they bury the prince and all his multitude, and they shall call it the valley of Haman-Gog. And 7 months shall the house of Israel be in burying them, that they may cleanse the land. Yes, all of the people of the land shall bury them, and it shall be unto them a renown the day that I will be glorified, saith the Adonai of Elohim of Israel. So we can very well see the prophets told us about when the heavens open, the Messiah coming down, he's already gathered all the nations up to Jerusalem to do battle, and that's where the war of Armageddon was be fought. The Messiah is going to be on the earth fighting the battle.
Right.
But people just told me his feet is going to stand on the Mount of Olives. But the church say, well, that's not going to happen. God lied to y'all. You see, he told the prophets a lie. So what's going to happen is that Christ is going to show up in the sky, and we're going to rise up, and then so what's going to happen to the people on earth? Well, as far as they can go with that. All they know is they're going up to Never Never Land as far as they say, but the prophets doesn't back that up.
Absolutely. Well, Elder, what we've been reading here, it doesn't sound like when the Messiah comes, there's going to be a twinkling of the nose and everything is going to be beautiful and Edenic again. It's going to take 7 months just to bury all the dead bodies. So this is going to be, I mean, it's going to be just like it is now. People are not going to be all angelic, you know, floating around. People are going to be people, and there will be some who will have that new body, if you will, correct?
And listen to the rest of this in Ezekiel, and it verifies that. This is verse 14. It says, and they shall sever out men of continual employment passing through the land to bury with the passengers those that remain upon the face of the earth, to cleanse it. After the end of 7 months shall they search. Now, it already told us it's going to take 7 years to burn up the war equipment. Now it's going to take, the people are going to be searching for dead bodies for 7 months.
Right.
And the passenger passed through the land, when any seeth the man's bone, then shall he set up a sign by it, till the buriers have buried it in the valley of Haman-Gog.
Absolutely, Elder. If you will, can you go over into like verse 22 where it talks about how we are going to finally know the Messiah, and we're going to know who we are at this time, and how we've been, you know, sort of hid because of our own atrocities. Yahweh hid his face from us.
Okay, I'll start this at verse 21. It says, and I will set my glory among the heathen, and all the heathen shall see my judgment that I have executed, and my hand that I have laid upon them. So the house of Israel shall know that I am Yahweh the Elohim from that day and forward. And the heathen shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity, because they trespassed against me. Therefore hid I my face from them, and gave them into the hands of their enemies. So fell they by the sword. According to their uncleanness and according to their transgression have I done this to them, and hid my face from them. Therefore, thus said the Adonai Elohim, now will I bring again the captivity of Jacob, and have mercy on the whole house of Israel, and will be jealous for his holy name. Well, he's destroyed up the armies. Lucifer was put in the bottomless pit. So there's no one here on the earth to deceive us anymore. So naturally, man is going to be able to prosper as long as he haven't got that deception in front of his eyes. And verse 27. When I have brought them again from the people, and gathered them out of their enemies' land, and am sanctified in them in the sight of many nations, then shall they know that I am Yahweh the Elohim, which caused them to be led into captivity among the heathen. But I have gathered them unto their own land, and have left none of them there anymore. Well, they tell me the Jews went back to Israel in 1948.
Right.
Well, we got here some in America.
We have more in America than we do in
So
Israel.
He said, I'm not going to leave any of them there anymore.
Exactly.
Well, something is wrong with that. Okay. And verse 29 said, neither will I hide my face anymore from them, for I have poured out my spirit upon the house of Israel, saith the Adonai Elohim.
And what a great day that will be when the children of Israel, this so-called Negro, will finally know that truly they are someone. They are the kings and priests of this earth and will rule this earth for 1,000 years. So obviously that gets us into what the apostles asked him at that time. They said, Adonai, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? Well, obviously the Romans had their necks, you know, their feet upon our neck. And you know, some 50 years later, they destroyed us completely from being a nation, sold the remaining Jews into Africa. We remained in Africa until they began the most popular international commerce known to man, which is called the transatlantic slave trade, when they brought our people here as slaves and captives.
Correct. And you know, the Messiah, back in the book of Revelation, it said, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity, right? He that kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the faith and the patience of the saints, right? Now here in Isaiah 14, it said, to back that up, in Isaiah 14 it says, for Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and sit them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them. Remember, Paul told them, say, you're a wild olive tree. You've been grafted into this tree contrary to nature, right? It said, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaidens. And they shall take them captives whose captives they are, and they shall rule over their oppressors. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh will give you rest from your sorrow and from your fear and from your hard bondage wherein you was made to serve. What goes around comes back around. So the nation, those that are saved among the nation that wash their robes in the blood of the Lamb, these are the ones that's going to be coming up to Jerusalem to keep the holy days and so forth, that's going to be set back in place once the Messiah returns.
Praise Yah. Elder, let's talk about the setup of this kingdom. Obviously, when we say kingdom, today you may know it as a nation. Nations have a theocracy. They also have a governmental structure. They have a prime minister or a king or a president. They have men of power they may call governors and senators, etc. Tell us how our kingdom will be set up with the Messiah as, of course, King of Kings and Lord of Lords.
Okay, when we was, let me read something here out of Isaiah chapter 32. It tells us, say, behold, a king shall reign in righteousness, and princes shall rule in judgment. So we know that a kingdom is going to be set up on the earth, and it's going to have a king. Now, when you read 2 Samuel 7 chapter, the Messiah, Yahweh told David that he'd never like a man to sit on his throne ruling anymore in Israel. This is why they call the Messiah the son of David, right? Okay, now, where we were in Zechariah, in chapter 14, if we go back there, it tells you what this king is going to do. Zechariah chapter, I think it's chapter 14 I want to go to anyway. Zechariah chapter 14, and it says, in verse 8, I'll pick this up at verse 7. It says, verse 6, and it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark, but it shall be one day which shall be known unto Yahweh, not day nor night. But it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light. And it shall be in that day that living water shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, and half of them toward the hinder sea. In summer and winter shall it be. And the Lord shall be king over all the earth. And in that day there shall be one Lord, and his name one. See, it's the Davidic, the kingdom that's going to be set up on the earth is the Davidic kingdom. The Messiah is the son of David. And he was the one that was promised and that was sent not only to redeem the children of Israel back to him, but to rule from Jerusalem, Israel, once this kingdom is set up, and gather our people back to the land. This is why it said he's going to be king over all the earth, right? And in verse, and now if you go back to chapter 12, in verse 9, it says, and it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and supplication. And they shall look upon me whom they appear. So we know that this is the Messiah that he's talking about, because this is the only person we read about that was pierced, that was going to be a great ruler. And they shall mourn for him as one mourned for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him, as in bitterness for his firstborn. So we can very well see who this is talking about. This is talking about the lamb that was sent. He came as a lamb, but when he come back, what did they call him? The Lion of the tribe of Judah.
Absolutely. Okay. So we've got the Messiah as king. What part will his father play? Talk about the 144,000, the 12 apostles of the Lamb. What part will they play in this governmental structure?
Well, David was promised that he would be the prince in the kingdom. So you're going to have the Messiah as king, along with that 144,000 and the 24 elders. They will be kings on the earth. David will be the prince of the earth, and the house of Judah will be the governors of the earth.
Okay.
You see, so...
And the 12 apostles?
The 12 apostles, they were promised that they were going to sit on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So what we'll have a judge in each one of the tribes.
Okay.
And when anything come up, just like it was in the old days, they had elders set around for that. Well, what they're going to do, the apostles will have that job in each one of the tribes. So when a problem come up, and people couldn't settle it, instead of taking that problem to Jerusalem, they take it to the apostles.
Okay. Now, Elder, obviously, you know, people think when the Messiah comes, everybody will be floating around. Everybody will have the same body that he does. Is that true?
Of course not. The scripture, Isaiah told us that a child would die 100 years old, so men going to be walking around in the street for very age with their staff in their hand. It talks us about the wolf and the lamb dwelling together, the leopard and the kid and the cow and the young lamb lying down together and so forth. And so we can very well see that it's going to be peace and prosperity upon the earth. And Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 8, it says, and the sucking child shall play on the hole of the ass, and the weaned child shall put his hand upon the cockatrice den, right? They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of Yahweh as the waters cover the sea. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Adonai shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the isles of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nation and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Why? Because Judah is his battle axe and weapons of war, the majestic white horse that he's going to ride in the battle. And he told you in Isaiah, say, even to you shall he come, the first dominion. The kingdom shall come to the daughter of Zion. So the governors of Judah is the ones that's going to be scattered to all over the earth, to the lands that's left on this earth, and they will be the governors of each one of those countries that's left here on the earth. So you had the Messiah and his entourage. You had David as the prince. Then you had the 12 apostles being the judges, and then you had Judah as being the governors of the land. And then he told the whole nation of Israel, say, you shall become be a kingdom of priests unto me, a holy nation. So we can very well see that Yahweh already has everything set up the way that he wants it set up. But what man does is this: by not knowing these things, what man has a tendency to do is go into the New Testament and come up with some lies that their founding fathers started. And that rapture stuff, we know that happened, that came about with the Mennonites in the 1600s. And here it is today. It's something free. All you got to do is have faith and believe, and you're going to Never Never Land. It's not so.
Okay, thank you, Elder. We'd like to go ahead and start our question and answer session. So if you have a question, please come up and we'll try and answer your questions. Go ahead, brother. Shalom. Is mic on?
Well, actually, a question, it's not really a question, but I actually wanted you to, touch on something for me there, Elder. I was talking to a brother who was actually being taught by the Jehovah's Witness that when the Messiah comes back, he's going to be in a spiritual form. So if you can, touch on that, for the brothers and sisters out there who are watching and who is being taught that when the Messiah comes back, he's going to be in a spiritual form instead of a physical form.
Well, what they need to do is go read and see what happened when the Messiah was ascending up into heaven.
Luke 24?
Yeah, that's an Acts, ain't it?
Luke 24.
Yeah, when the Messiah was ascending up in heaven, they asked him, say, you men of Galilee, why do you stand gazing up into heaven? Say, the same way he left is the same way he is going to return, right? And now when he was resurrected up from the dead, to show you what kind of body he's going to have, when he was resurrected from the dead, he told the people, say, look, spirits don't have flesh and bone as you see me have. So it's I myself. The Messiah was a brand new creature. Now, in order to get some understanding out of what kind of body the Messiah had, what size, type body that the people are going to be given, all you got to do is read Ezekiel 37 chapter, dry bones in the valley. And you can see the bodies that was raised up had everything in them but blood. And that's the same type body that the Messiah had. The reason why he came back and showed he wanted his apostles to see what it was. You say, see, this is what I was telling you. See, it ain't going to be no spooky stuff. See, the flesh shall inherit the earth forever. Right. In order for the flesh to inherit the earth, Paul told you, he shall quicken this mortal body.
Right.
He shall quicken this mortal flesh. Well, quicken means what? It means to make it, put it in a condition to where it would never decay again.
Right.
You see? So that's about what that is there, brother.
And also, his purpose was to become the second Adam.
Right.
Adam was made from the dust of the earth to rule the earth, to have dominion over the earth. So the Messiah is that second man, Adam, that will do what the Most High has said to do, and he will rule this earth as a man, except he will never be able to die again.
Correct.
Any
Absolutely
other
correct.
questions? All right, Elder, a few minutes to formulate their questions. In Revelation chapter 16, it talks about these three unclean spirits jumping out of the mouths of these leaders. Let's talk about that a little bit, back during this time of the Battle of Armageddon.
Well, actually, speaking, this is just before the Battle of Armageddon. The
Drawing them
sixth
up.
vial was poured out upon the earth in verse 12 in chapter 16. It was it says, and the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. Kings coming out of that Middle East over there, coming on into Israel's land, right? The Messiah is, Yahweh is drawing them up there, right? Okay. And it says, verse 13, and I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, right? Well, the dragon is the one that's given the beast and the false prophet all that power. Remember, the little horn had two voices, two horns like a lamb, but he spoke as a dragon. So we can very well see that what these unclean spirits are. It tells you in verse 14. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth into the kings of the earth and of the whole world to gather them to the battle of the great day of the Almighty Elohim. So these are these unclean spirits that's possessing this last king and the false prophet. Remember, it was a political empire that was set up, and it was an ecclesiastical empire that was set up. But the people worshiped the dragon.
Who is Satan himself.
Right. So when it came down to ecclesiastical Babylon, it was the false prophet, right, that caused them to receive that name, number, and mark to worship that beast. And he had two horns, like a lamb, but he spoke as a dragon. In other words, he's the one that wielded all of the power of the Roman Catholic Church at this time. So those three unclean spirits like frogs that came out, when it said frogs, it was just really saying unclean again. These are the men that's on the earth now. When the kingdom is set up, when this last empire is set up, that's going to go to the earth, the four corners of the earth, to bring the people, to make them come up to Jerusalem. You see, so remember, the prophet Isaiah said there's going to be a hook in the jaws of the people, causing them to error. So Yahweh is allowing this to happen so that these fallen angels can bring get all their armies together to come up to fight the Lord. That's what they're coming up there for.
Right.
They're not just coming up there to fight us. See, they got understanding.
Right.
They're not coming up there to fight us, but they're going to actually believe that they can destroy the Messiah when he returns on the scene, simply because of the power and the technology that Lucifer has given them.
All right.
See, they're giving us this thing about all this outer space stuff. They know what the deal is. They getting ready for the Messiah to come from outer space. That's what they getting ready for.
All righty. Brother, state your name, your question or comment.
My name is Brother Abaya.
Okay.
I'd like to ask, is there any significance of the valley that's created when the Mount Olivet is going to split, going all the way down to Mount Azel? Does that have any significance, say, as does the Valley of Megiddo? Did it have any correlation between the two?
Same valley.
Same valley?
Yeah. Same valley. It's just going to be enlarged.
And actually, I just wanted the elder to come to that. In Revelations chapter 14, when we talk about the vision of Armageddon in this great valley, we also see these angels coming to reap the earth. What will happen to those who are reaped? And obviously, they will be cast into that great valley for destruction, correct?
Well, the people that's going to be in Israel at that time is going to be cast into that great valley. But there are going to be people that's going to be in other countries that didn't come. The wicked that's going to be in other countries that's not part of that. He's not gonna take them from Russia and kill them and then bring them all the way to Israel and put them in the valley. See what he's going to do? He's going to kill them right there in the cities where they are.
Okay.
You see, and then it's the wicked that's going to be destroyed out of the earth. This is why when you get in the book of Revelation, it tell you that the armies was killed off. The beast and the false prophet was thrown into the lake of fire. But the remnant was killed with the sword of him that said,
The remnant of the army.
yeah, the remnant of the army was killed with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, right? And the horses and the blood came out of their bodies up to the horses' bridles, right? Well, all of that'll be done with the destroying of the actual army that's being destroyed. But we were told that the slain of Yahweh shall be from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. So the people that's in their respective countries that haven't washed their robes in the blood of the Lamb, they're going to die there. And the people in those countries are going to bury them.
So what is the reaping that the Revelation chapter 14 speaks about?
Well, the reaping is reaping, bringing all the
wine
armies. See, that's what the reaping is. They thrust in your sickle and reap the clusters of the vine because they're ripe. Well, the clusters of the vine is the nations that's coming up to do war.
All right,
See, it's the fruit. So he's going to reap the armies. He's bringing it. That's why I say it's going to be a hook in the people's jaws, causing them an error. So what he's doing, he allowed Lucifer to send those unclean spirits to the four corners of the earth to gather that army together. So that is the reaping right there. That's when the sickle is thrown in, thrust in, and is brought into they're brought up to the mountain of Israel, and they're killed off in the valley of Armageddon.
And one army is going to have like 2 million men. That's just one army. So we're talking about a massive gathering of armies on the earth. And it talks about the blood being so thick, and it will flow like a river in that great valley.
Well, one army will have 2 million men, but remember the prophet told us there, and the number of them was 200,000. That's 200 million. That's 200 million men. And when you talk about blood, considering that the body only have 8 pints of blood in it, when you consider that it's going to be enough blood to be up to the horse's bridle, it's going to be millions of folks that's going to be killed in that valley. Millions of folks. We got to understand what's happening. All of the wicked is being taken out of the earth. So blood is going to be the norm on the earth from one end of the earth to the other one. But it's just in that valley where the army is concentrated that most of the blood is going to be shed.
Okay. Brother, thank you for us coming to ask your question. State your name and your question or comment.
Shalom, my name is Brother Hezekiah.
Okay.
Most of the time when you talk to most Christians or whatever, they use John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall have everlasting life. How do you approach someone? Because they actually think that they're going to go to heaven, you know what I'm saying, and that they living righteous. So what do you tell someone who thinks something like that, just because they read that one verse?
Well, I look at it like this way, brother. Yahweh created the earth, right? And everything that in here is, right? And he's going to save the earth and the nations that he created on the earth. But he did so love the world that he gave his only begotten Son, but it had to be done a certain way. It had to be done through the family that was set up on the earth and according to what the prophets was written down. This is why 10 years after Christ was resurrected from the dead, Peter was sent to Cornelius. Why? To open the door to the nations so that the world could be saved, you see. So it wasn't just Israel he was going to save, but he was setting up a way. He told us, you shall be a kingdom of priests unto me. So he was setting up a way among the nations so that the nations could be saved. That's why it was Hebrews that went to the nations and taught them. So when people just say that to say, well, whoso believes should not be perished but have everlasting life. But it's not so much as whoso believes, it's how you believe and what you believe. You see, so they're misconstruing what actually is being said. It wasn't, and when you notice when you talk to Christian people, they read things and think it applies to everybody, but if you pay attention to the we, you, theys, and us and so forth, and what actually come out of Yahweh's mouth, you get a better handle on things. So that's what he was talking about, my brother. He does love the world. He does love his creation, but he told them a specific way why they were going to be saved.
I mean, I think we read yesterday in the Sabbath that Yahweh doesn't want to see the death of any man.
Right.
I mean, he wants all to live in his kingdom and to be righteous.
But you gotta come
know
to
what
me.
righteousness is. Exactly. And
You
keep
got to
his
come.
law.
You got to come to Israel. In order to be saved, you got to come to Israel simply because Israel was given all the covenants of Yahweh. We are the recipients of all the covenants. But see, in the law book, there was made provisions for the strangers that dwell among us. He told them, says, you do, so shall they do. So you see, so you knew then, even back when our people came out of Egypt, that Yahweh had stretched his hands out to the whole nation. But it was just the way that he wanted to do it. And then after they put us out of our land, when they were in our land, people didn't mind listening because we was a government. We had a system set up. But once we became slaves, and now we became captive children of those slaves, don't nobody want to hear us. Okay.
All right, brother, state your name and your question or comment.
Okay, shalom, Elder, Sister Israel. My name is Shialtiel, and the question I have is basically, how do I deal with folks when they come to me with, you're not under law but under grace? You know, the question. I'm trying to, what's a better way I can explain it to them, the whole process?
Well, what I do is this, when it comes down to that thing about that law book, my favorite place to go and deal with them is a book that they don't read too often in this New Testament, and that's the book of Romans. In the second chapter of Romans, when Paul was talking to the people that our people and the people the Gentiles that was going to church with us in Rome, it says, and I'm going to pick this up at verse. It's a run-on sentence, so I'm gonna have to break it up. So I'm gonna have to break it up in order to read it. Verse 8. It says, "But unto them that are contentious and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness, indignation and wrath, tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that does evil, of the Jew first, and also of the Gentile. But glory, honor, and peace to every man that worketh good, to the Jew first, and also to the Gentile. For there is no respect of persons with Elohim. For as many as have sinned without law shall also die without law. And as many as have sinned in the law shall be judged by the law. For not the hearers of the law are just before God, but the doers of the law shall be justified." That's what I go read. Now, if they don't want to deal with that, then they don't believe this book.
And also in Romans chapter 6 it says, "What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? Yahweh forbid. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein?" So just because Yahweh has given us his grace, because none of us deserve to understand his law and to come under that baptism. So that's grace, because we were all sinners. So the grace of Yahweh was that he, gave us this greatness without us deserving it. So how shall we continue in sin, which is the breaking of the law, now that we've been given this grace? It says, God forbid, we cannot continue in sin just because Yahweh has given us the grace of this knowledge that we have. So I think that's also a good one that you can go to because of that. In verse 14 it says, "For sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under the law, but under grace. What then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law, but under grace? Yahweh forbid." So that's a good one to go to.
And sin is the transgression of the law. See, where there's no law, there's no sin. Where there's no sin, there's no death. And people die every day.
Absolutely.
People die every day, so they're dying. Why? Because of sin. Okay.
All right, Yahweh. So, Elder. Elder, we have the Messiah. We've come back. He has fought the battle of Armageddon. He has set up his governmental structure. Himself as king, King David, the 24 elders. The Judites have been scattered to the four corners of the earth to teach the law to the nations. That's going to go on for 1,000 years, correct? What happens after that?
Well,
close this out.
And in order to deal with that, we have to go back in the book of Revelations and pick it up in the book of Revelations.
The deceiver has been cast into a pit and sealed for 1,000 years.
Okay, let's go back into Revelations chapter
20.
No, I think I want to go into Revelation chapter Okay. Revelations chapter, okay. In chapter 20, the beast was thrown into the lake of fire. Let me pick this up at chapter 20 and verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottom of the pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him to the bottom of this pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should not deceive the nation no more until the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that he must be loosed a little season. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahshua, and for the word of Elohim, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark on their forehead or in their hand, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Now, when you read that verse, people say, well, what's going to happen, see, is after 1,000 years, everybody's dead, he's going to raise them up and give them another chance. That was the chance during the 1,000 years.
Right.
Okay.
If they lived in that
Right.
1,000 years.
And it said, this is the first resurrection. Blessed is holy he that has part in the first resurrection. On such the second death had no power. But they shall be priests of Elohim and of the Messiah, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. And when the 1,000 years expired, Satan will be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, the prince and Russia, and gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sands of the sea. And they went up on the breadth of the earth, and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city, and fire came down from Elohim out of heaven, and devoured them. And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire with brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are.
Elder, we're going to have to cut it off there. I've been given my time period. I want to thank you very much for joining me tonight in Beyond the Surface. Come out to the Cultural Center. We're located at 3901A Covington Highway in Decatur, Georgia. We have a website, www.thencci.com. Again, www.thencci.com. Or call us at 404-286-5869 with your questions or comments. Thanks so much for joining us for this portion of Beyond the Surface. Stay tuned for next week. We're in DeKalb County on Channel 25 on Tuesdays at 2 o'clock. We're also on in Atlanta on Mondays at 3 p.m. Again, Mondays in Atlanta at 3 p.m., Tuesdays in DeKalb County at 2 p.m. Look for Beyond the Surface. Thanks so much, and good night.